Hi, teammates. Welcome to the LiveWell podcast, the podcast that connects you to all the topics to meet you along your well-being journey. I'm one of your hosts, Jen Collings.
I'm Cindy Patterson.
And I'm Seth Christopher. Welcome to the Well.
Hi, Cindy and Seth. We are here again on another episode of The Well, our financial edition. How's everybody doing today?
Hey, doing great. Hope you are too.
I am doing well.
Awesome. We have a great topic. Cindy, kick us off with our topic today.
Well, our topic today is kids and cash. We're going to talk about why it's so important that we start to involve our children in our daily money decisions at a young age.
So you say kids and cash, and I automatically think, cash? Really? Credit cards, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Kids and plastic. How about that?
There we go.
Family finances, maybe?
Yep. All of the above.
Seems like an important topic that we have lots of great information for our listeners today. Let's go ahead and dig in. Seth, were you able to find some facts around this topic?
Believe it or not, Jen, Cindy, I was. So let's get started with some fast facts. Fast fact. Parents, guardians, school is not the primary source for kids to learn about money. As of 2020, only 21 states in the U.S. actually required a standalone course in either personal finance or economics as a part of the state's education curriculum. According to the most recent survey of the states, actually only 25 states have a standard for teaching young adults the basics of economics. However, great news, Carolinians. North Carolina recently launched state legislation that now requires or mandates that students graduating as a part of the class of 2024 actually take a standalone course in economics and personal finance. For South Carolina, they don't necessarily have a standalone course, but they are also getting finance education as a part of other required coursework. So way to go, Carolinas.
Yeah, that's huge. We didn't have anything like that when I was growing up. So I'm glad to see that folks are finally starting to realize how important it is. And the bad thing, is we're trained to be consumers at a young age. And it's even worse now with technology and all the virtual things that kids are exposed to. There are constantly ads coming at us. And I even read a statistic that by the age of 5, kids have already seen 30,000 ads.
Wow. And these ads really start to create those conversations of, hey, mom, hey, dad, hey, grandma, hey, grandpa, I need you to buy me this.
Exactly.
This is what I need this.
Right. And the thing is, even though some school systems are starting to incorporate finance into their curriculum, we still really learn the most about money from our parents and grandparents. So it's important that we all think about this and reflect on our own experiences. What did you observe when you were growing up, and how did your parents deal with money? We know that money is a cause of friction in a lot of families, and was that the case for you? Do you want to try to better model healthy behavior around money for your kids? Were you somebody who grew up just seeing your parents make it from paycheck to paycheck? And how can you start to show them different behaviors that will help them learn the value of what we need, what cash flow looks like when we get paid for going to work, when that money comes in, and then how we deal with short-term and long-term savings?
all really good points, Cindy, and it's a very layered conversation. But statistically, looking at next fast fact, I mean, you're right. Parents, guardians, you're the go-to source for kids to learn about money. Whether it's these habits of how to manage a daily budget, how to manage your cash flow, like Cindy's talking about. I mean, in a recent Young Money survey by TD Ameritrade, they found that 43% of young millennials and 47% of Gen Xers stated they learn their savings and spending habits, whether good or bad, from their parents or their guardians. So parents, kids are watching, being engaged and trying to teach the right habits it's important, and it has an impact. I mean, a previous U.S. study of 15-year-olds found that 18% of respondents were actually not learning fundamental financial skills that are applicable to everyday situations. So that's 1 in 5 kids who are watching their parents and not learning anything that's going to help them.
That's not surprising because so many of us never learned it at all. So how could we be good role models when it comes to that? It's not a surprise. But if we start to pay more attention and we start to make money part of our daily conversations, we can have a positive approach toward it. So instead of waiting for our child to make a mistake with money, go ahead and have a positive conversation rather than a lecture, and bring it into our everyday life. Like, this is how much we have to spend at the grocery store, and this is how much our food costs, and this is why we have to think about this, and maybe we're not going to get it this week, but we're going to plan to do this next week, that sort of thing. And I read that even kids as young as 3 years old can understand some basic concepts like bartering. So you could start to talk to your kids about things like, I'll give you this for that, or I'll trade you this for your cupcake. Or so they start to understand, how do I value what I have and what is it worth to someone else?
I've got to say, I bet parents and grandparents alike are not surprised by that little fact about the 3-year-olds. I'm actually surprised it's not younger, because kids are crafty these days. Probably always have been, but yeah, they definitely get the sense of barter and trade and value. And it's what you're saying is extremely important, because we're trying to tie that back into the importance of, hey, understanding this is how they're developing, this is what they're looking at, and how do you help equip them with the right skill set and the process and the experience to be able to make good decisions as they get older.
Exactly. So there are other things that you can start to do that you may not even have thought about, like showing your kids coupons. If you get the Sunday paper, or if you go online and you pull coupons, you can sit down and show them, well, here's something for $1 off of this kind of French fries or whatever. But you know what? We don't really eat those French fries. Should we use this, or should we not? And just let them start to think about that and what makes sense in your household and what doesn't. No, I had to actually physically go to the credit union the other day, which is rare. But while I was there, I noticed that at mine, which is Truliant Federal Credit Union, they have a station for kids to sit down and get online and do little games while their parents are waiting in line. So if you go physically to a bank or credit union, show them that. Let them spend 5 minutes over there understanding what it is. If it's fun, they'll want to do it again. If your bank or credit union has a kids account, let them do it. Let them go ahead and start kind of having a play account that they can transact in and learn what it means to have a balance and what happens when you spend it all. Yeah. You can even do things like, my neighborhood a couple of weeks ago had our annual yard sale. And instead of just making all the decisions to take out, all the things they don't wear anymore, things that don't fit or what they don't play with, let your kids be a part of that decision. Send them to their room and say, what are the things that you might like to sell? It's kind of taking that bartering to the next step, saying, what would you like to do? Get rid of this? Maybe you could sell it. You could get money that you can then do something else with. Let them help make those decisions and be a part of the process. And then show your kids what a stock is by using an example of a company like Disney or a Mattel or something that they can relate to. And then you can begin to explain that when we buy a stock in this company, we have small pieces of ownership in Disney, and we can track the value of that over time. And we go to Yahoo Finance and type it in and see how it moves. So, it's something for older children, but again, starting to give them a bigger overall money picture.
With the garage sale idea, the yard sale, that's something that we have done in our house when our kids were younger, sort of as a way to, we position it with Christmas presents. So we say, the toys that you haven't played with anymore, we need to make room for new toys, and you can use that as Christmas money or savings or that kind of thing. And it works quite well. They enjoyed it. They would be disappointed if not all their stuff left, though.
That's perfect. That's, that's real life, though. So it's a good lesson. One thing I also want to mention that I know I never learned about was credit scores. So I was probably in college before I even understood what a credit score is. So there's no reason to wait that long. I think as kids get older, especially when they're close to learning to drive and maybe interested in having a car of their own, that's a perfect time to start talking about borrowing money and what a credit score is and why it's important to consider how you build that out and why you need it to be good as you get older.
And that's a great call out there, thinking about, how that number will be a part of you for the rest of your life, and trying to make the best decision possible. I mean, it doesn't always happen. We all get started in different directions. I mean, we talked about how, a lot of us didn't have the financial courses from school. We didn't have the role models in place to help us to understand how that number can impact us later in life. Are there steps that parents can take at that 14, 15, 16, or even younger to help educate their kids about exactly what a financial or a credit score is? Are there simple ways for them to explain that and ways to get them started?
Absolutely. So the first thing that I would tell them is that anytime you need to borrow money, a credit agency is going to determine the likelihood that you'll be able to pay that money back. And that's what a credit score represents. And then I'd show them, I think we talked about earlier in other sessions that we need to check our credit score once a year, and we can do that for free through annualcreditreport.com. And sit down and let them see, show them what it is, print it out, let them see, this is when I borrowed money to buy my car. This is when I had a credit card. This is when I took a loan to put a down payment on our home, and explain what it is and the components of it, so that they always go into that understanding that daily decisions have a long-term impact. There'll be a day when, you'll want that to be good so that you can do the things in life that you want to do.
And the interesting part about it is, if I as a parent or guardian am learning how to do this as a part of teaching, I feel like I need to be pretty well equipped to have those conversations. And if I know this is something my kids or my grandkids need to be equipped with, and I'm the role model, good or bad, I think that puts a little bit more onus on me to say, all right, I need to take this not just seriously, but I need to really invest in understanding how to give them the best opportunities, which is something we all want, right? We all want the generation behind us to have those opportunities, and finances is a big part of that, and allowing us and enabling us to accomplish and achieve our dreams. But taking that seriously enough to say, all right, what things and what tips can I provide? And this is a fantastic list, Cindy, of some of those immediate steps and some of those things that keep them engaged and keep them learning and wanting to do better. And I think this is a wonderful list.
Yeah, and yeah, it may not be easy because, we don't always make good decisions ourselves every day, and realizing that you have somebody watching you, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure, but, admitting things that we've done wrong ourselves in the past is a way that we can prevent the younger generation from repeating our mistakes. I know we've talked about this before too, is that because we were raised thinking that it was taboo to talk about money, we've all separately learned the hard way. And there just comes a point in time where we've got to stop that. And we've just got to be open about, sharing things we did wrong along the way, and understanding that every day is a chance to do better.
And it broadens the conversation a bit beyond just teaching your kids. When you think about generational poverty and economic mobility and lack of economic mobility, which has been, I think, here in the Charlotte community, really top of mind since the big study that showed Charlotte scored essentially in last place across all the big cities in the U.S. for economic mobility, moving from the ability to move from low income to middle income or within the generation. And, it all comes back down to this financial literacy, this, how am I better off now, having learned what I've learned from my parents, the people we know that we're watching, or my family, and how they manage money. And that's just such a big part of it. And, this is something that I've talked about before that, I take very seriously. I think, understanding the nuances of how to help others and through education, and how all things are not equal and equal opportunities for everyone don't necessarily exist. Understanding how to manage finances and the basics helps to give people a foundation to make that movement and to help make the best choices possible. So it sounds like we've got a great playbook to do that.
Yep, it's critical that we all pay attention to it and help each other.
Real dense conversation there. I love it. I think, Jen, you've got some myths that you were ready to bust. Is that right?
I do have a few. This is great conversation. I hate to even follow it, but I do have some interesting things that I think will add to it. Let's dig in. Myth number 1, money is evil or bad. So some people feel that money is a negative or a necessary evil, and that can contribute to fear and worry around their finances. We really want to try not to pass this type of thought down to our kids. Maybe try to teach your kids to see money as their friend. It helps with responsible money management. We can have opportunities, peace of mind, and we can do things that are fun. All in all, we really want to foster a healthy relationship with money and not have it be something that causes us extra stress.
Right. And, I've probably said this before too, but we hear the saying, money doesn't buy happiness all the time. But what we kind of need to reframe that and say, but it does allow us choices. And we want to be able to make good choices for ourselves and our families. So you're right, Jen. It's not wrong. It's a necessary tool that we all need to use the right way.
It's interesting to put emotion to the finances. I don't know that I've thought about it that way before. So it was interesting to find that myth. So I know I've probably felt that way, but didn't really put it all together. So great points. Myth number 2 is kind of a fun one. When I shop online, the money that I use isn't real. So technology has changed the way that we do business. Y'all, seriously, just this morning, my son ordered his breakfast online for delivery, paid with a credit card.
Yep.
Things we do, shopping, groceries, even banking, can all be done online, changing the way that kids view currency. According to a study done by T. Rowe Price, 60% of kids said they shop online, and nearly 75% said they rarely or never go to a bank. And I can tell you, my oldest son, he very rarely goes. He does even his deposits through his phone. So with all this virtual money, it can be difficult for kids to have a visual on how to manage it. So one option to make money more personal, take your kids to the bank, like you had talked about with your credit union. Teach them how to budget with incomes and incoming expenses, outgoing expenses. Even if you're playing with that monopoly money, make that tangible for your kids.
Yep. Show them when you log into your account, if you are checking to see if something's cleared or if your paycheck's in, show them the pluses and minuses. You reminded me, Jen, I had a friend who took their family on a cruise and let their 2 young boys go to the game room and play video games. And when they got ready to leave and settle up, when the cruise was over, they had a $300 bill from the video games because there was no money.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. That was why there was no accounting for what they were doing whatsoever. So it's a whole new world, and we have to somehow make sure that we're relating that there's real money involved in clicking that button.
Yeah, I think I told y'all before that, my daughter recently, a couple months ago, she went to the store and she has a bank account. And I told her, I was like, you can't spend money you don't have. If it costs $50 and you have 45, you have to put something back. And she didn't quite understand that. She was like, I figured they just filled it in. I was like, no, it's got to come from somewhere. So it was a hard lesson, but that's the thing, is they just don't see it. I don't know that we balance our check registry like we used to. Everything is done online for us.
Right. You don't really have to, because you can look on your phone, but just show them that you're doing that.
This has been so great. Anything else before we move on to our next segment and just talk about what's happening at LiveWell? Any other tips we've left off so far?
I just want to call out a couple of resources, and there are so many. You could Google kids and money and find all kinds of good sites, games and things like that. But a few that I particularly like are usmint.gov. There are games on that site. There's one, if you've been homeschooling during COVID, you probably have already stumbled upon education.com. You can sort by grade level and find games regarding currency and saving and spending on that site. And then there's one that I like called 3 Jars, and it's referring to putting your money in 3 different jars. And you set up a little profile for each child in your family. And you can put categories like allowance if you do allowance, or you can do paid jobs. If they have chores, they get paid for. So they have money coming in to those accounts, and then they have a save, a spend, and a share jar. And it's a good way. It's like a bank account, and you can help them understand deposits, withdrawals, interest, chores, calendars, all those things that you set up, which is super cool.
I love that. Save, spend, share.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, let's talk about what's happening in LiveWell. Really, the biggest thing we have going on is our incentive deadline. The second one is coming up. It is June 14th, and the payout will be July 23rd. There's still time. If you haven't gotten your activities done, you can still do them before the 14th. If, however, that you're not going to hit that deadline, no worries. We have one more. Our last one for the year is October 18th, and that payout will go on November 12th. Cindy, what's going on in the financial health world?
Well, we have a Bank of America webinar scheduled for July 22nd at noon. So look for that on our LiveWell site. You can get incentive credit for attending that. We do schedule something every month. So if you've not yet had a chance to attend a webinar, there will be plenty more throughout the rest of the year that you can jump in on. The virtual offerings have gone really well. We've had lots of attendance, but if they don't fit your schedule, we're adding to our Brainshark recordings that are out there. So there'll always be something that you can listen to fulfill your incentive needs.
Here's a question around that. Any benefit to teammates including their children in those webinars? Would the children be able to get something out of it? Oh, great.
Absolutely. I would include everybody, spouse, kids. the whole family should listen. And, if your kids are young and maybe they don't follow the entire thing, there'll be a tidbit that you can pick up from that and help them understand, or one thing that you can hone in on that you guys can work on together.
Wow, there's just so much happening in the LiveWell space and also with the financial space too. Love to hear about all the additional virtual options that are going on in the financial realm, Cindy, and the fact that, hey, kids can jump in and listen to. So really looking forward to hearing feedback from our teammates about that. But we also talked about some pretty heavy topics today, arming our kids with the resources and the knowledge to make really good choices as they become adults and they begin to really take on some of the challenges of the world. Jen, cap it off for us. What exactly did we learn today?
As you said, we learned so much. I feel like every time we have Cindy on, I actually take away a page full of notes, even for myself. So we discussed that from an early age, we were bombarded with advertisements, and we are just bred to be consumers. And to the point that money may not mean much, so we may actually lose some perspective. Seth, your facts informed us money management is not a primary subject taught in schools. So because of this, we need to start teaching our kids about money early. It's the parents, guardians, grandparents, get them involved and start teaching about saving, budgeting, and basic money management. Cindy provided us with a lot of different resources. We also learned to make money real for kids so that they grow up with a realistic view of their funds and income and overall expenses.
So a lot of knowledge being shared today. Cindy, what was one of our main takeaways for teammates?
It's never too soon to start involving your kids in your daily financial dealings.
That's a great takeaway. Our next podcast, we are going to have a special guest from the Atrium Headache Center. Dr. Tariq provides a robust conversation about headaches, migraines, and various holistic treatments. Look for this episode to air next week.
And teammates, don't forget to visit the LiveWell website for more info on financial health, managing stress, working with a LiveWell health coach, and additional resources on all of your fitness needs. New to the site, you'll also see the Well podcast, right, Jen?
Yes, this is an exciting addition to our LiveWell webpage. The Well has its own link and page that has all our previous episodes listed there. So definitely check that out if there's an episode that you enjoyed and you want to hear again, or if you're a new listener to the Well.
Let's repeat that. Teammates, if you can't get enough of Jen, Seth, and Cindy on one podcast, visit the LiveWell website. Check us out on the Well page.
Our resources are listed at the end of the show, and we'll add links to the programs discussed today in the comments on our Streams channel.
Looking for more things LiveWell? Not following our Streams channel yet? Search the Well on Streams in Office 365 or find us on the LiveWell website to access all our content.
Thanks for listening to the Well today.
Stay safe
and live well.